a low self-concept, it comes from low attainment, and that is basically, a low attainment on the parts of these group is the result of institutional racism. It can be sexism, or it can be class prejudice. So sometimes it happens that a lot of the time we have some biases, among a certain caste or a certain group or a certain race, and sometimes among genders as well, that girls, they can do some specific things, and boys, they can do some specific thing. Girls cannot be doing this and this thing, and boys can be doing this and this stuff, like that. So this kind of like stuff, from the very start, if someone has experienced these kind of like racism or sexism or prejudice or biasness or judgment towards themselves in any kind of like capacity, it might be a building block in them believing that this is my limitation in my life, and that can result in having a low self concept. In the same way, if someone is having a better schooling or a better upbringing, these kind of like problems, they can be easily eliminated. How? For example, if someone is having a very strong, upbringing, the parents, they're very much actively involved in what kind of like self-image my child is having. If they're continuously having a discussion, so the parents, let's suppose if someone has tried to discourage the child in certain capacity, the child, if they are coming to the parents and they are having a dialogue, if they are talking to the parents, they can easily guide the children that how this limitation, it's useless, it's baseless, and it does not apply in your life, and how you are, you have the capacity, what are your resources, what are your capacities, and how you can excel in your life. So this kind of like, because children, they are sometimes kind of like they're just like sponges. Whatever, sometimes the words, whatever the experiences, whatever the stuff that you are going to be sending their way, they might be absorbing it just like that. So that is why sometimes these kind of like negative and toxic stuff in their life, they can easily absorb it and they can start believing in it. That is why if there is a better schooling, and if the role of the parents involvement in the children's life, to the extent that they are having a communication, they talk to their children, they know that what is my child is thinking about certain things, and his or her own self-image, that can be easily eliminated. Because if these things, they are not eliminated, then a child or someone that is growing up, they can start doubting themselves, or they can start discovering their identity, or it can result in having some clashes with their self-identity. That XYZ was saying, I cannot do this thing, so maybe I cannot do this thing, I'm not capable of doing this thing, I do not have worth of doing this thing, and someone start believing in it, and they limited their life and they restricted their life. So that is why it is very much important, because to understand your own identity, to discover your own self, and this freedom, this exposure, it is very much important, because everyone, they should be given a chance to explore their identity, rather than just focusing on whatever that is coming from custom, from tradition, and all of that stuff, blindly start following it, because sometimes that can really restrict you, because these people who have taught me to just be this and this, that is why I'm just going to be this and this. No, sometimes it is very much important to discover your own identity. That is going to help you to discover your own self. That is going to help you to discover your own strengths and your own weaknesses, and to experiment with your own talents and your capacities. So all of these things, they result in either you having a good self-esteem, or either you having a very restricted and a very low self-esteem. And sometimes another very important thing that really plays a very important in this aspect is, some children's, or sometimes we are taught this thing that, in order to receive appreciation, in order to receive it, that sense of achievement, it is going to be always conditional, that in order to receive love from our loved ones, from our parents, from our, from the close people, important people in our life, it is always going to be conditional. And what it is that, you all the time, you have to be good, all the time in a certain thing, or you have to be perfect in a certain thing, or you have to achieve very big things in your life. Only then, the people around you, they're going to love you, or they're going to accept you. that is a very big burden. That from the starting, when we develop this concept, that in order to feel loved, in order to feel accepted, we need to be extremely well. We need to be perfect. We need to do